Hello, 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 everyone. We are so glad to have you here today as we are getting ready to get started in the chat. If you could please share your name, your pronouns, your team with Mothers Out Front, or if you're staff, your role at Mothers Out Front, and a few words to describe how you're arriving today. And I think my good friend Stephanie is going to drop that in the chat for you. So as we're waiting for just another minute to see who else might join us, if you could just drop your name, pronouns, your team, role at Mothers Out Front, and a few words to describe how you're arriving today. Yay, all of these wonderfully excited people. It's so good to see all of you. We're going to give it one more minute just to see. It's Saturday. Some people on the West Coast, maybe just getting their coffee going. Maybe people on the East Coast just had a little bit of lunch. Let's give it a minute. Hello, hello. If you didn't see the prompt as you are entering, we are sharing in the chat our names, pronouns, our teams, our role at Mothers Out Front, and a few words to describe how you are arriving today. All right. I think that we are going to get started. And if you see a friend, an acquaintance, a colleague show up in the chat, catch them up in the private chat, let them know what is going on. And we will give a few more prompts throughout the day. So everybody should be fine. Hello, hello, hello again. Welcome to day one of our two-part series, Winning Climate Organizing, Racial Justice to the Center, and day 5 of the Base Building Leadership Academy, for those of you who have been with us since the beginning of that series. As you all are settling in and we're getting ready to participate and learn together today, I wanted to just let you know how happy all of us at Mothers Out Front are to have you here as we begin to engage in our work with a more inclusive focus on climate justice. As some of you know, our team engaged in a months-long process to create a strategic plan that centers equity and justice in all aspects of our climate change work. We know to do this because creating a more just, equitable, and inclusive Mothers Out Front starts with each one of us who are showing up today. So thank you again for showing up. And you're showing up ready to learn, perhaps maybe a little excited, and maybe you're a little bit nervous too, and that's okay. We're committed to changing how we organize, who we organize, and where we organize. So thank you so much for being willing to be a part of this journey with us. We'd love to get to know you a little bit better. And so I'll just remind you of the prompt, which is in the chat. For those of you who have just joined us and you haven't had a chance to do it yet, if you could share your name, your pronouns, the team you're on for Mothers Out Front, your role at Mothers Out Front, and a few words to describe how you're arriving today. Let's see what we've got going on. Oh, I love it when people are intrigued, right? Like, I feel like that gets us off to a good start. If people are curious, always a good thing in my book. Some folks are showing up with their children, showing up scattered with an angry toddler. Nora, I hear you. Toddlers, children, fur babies, everyone is welcome into this space. And so take your time, do what you have to do. And we are there supporting you for all the moms with angry toddlers at this moment. Love that people are energized, excited, all of these great things that we're seeing. I'm so happy to see that people are excited, they're ready to go. And so we are going to be ready to go as well. With that, I would love to turn it over to my friend and colleague and coworker, Jamie. Jamie, will you give everybody a warm welcome?
Yes, happy to. Thank you, Beth. Aho. For everyone out there, anyone who doesn't know, aho is a Kiowa word. It has been adopted by many tribes all across the country, and it is used in many different ways. It's a greeting, as I just used it, but it's also often used as a thank you and a couple other ways. I'm going to go ahead and get us grounded as we start off today with a land and tribe acknowledgement. So as my friend and colleague Beth just mentioned, my name is Jamie Valdez and I'm the Pueblo organizer. Greetings everyone from the land we now know as Colorado, which is the occupied traditional homeland of the Apache, the Shoshone, the Cheyenne, the Diné, the Arapaho, the Ute, and the Pueblo tribes, along with the Yaqui, the Chicano, Chicana, the Azteca, and many other peoples who either lived on and or roamed these lands. And we honor them as the original stewards of the land and all relatives within, both human and non-human. It's important to recognize broken treaties, forced removal and assimilation, generational trauma, and indigenous lands, especially in the context of the climate movement. Indigenous people are the original stewards of the land we live on and continue to be leaders in the climate justice movement to continue to defend the land, the earth, and a sustainable future. As a team, one of the ways to build your base is through allyship and connecting to other intersecting organizations and peoples. I encourage you to use the map being dropped into the link right now, or the link being dropped into the chat right now, sorry about that, to research what indigenous groups are still on the land you call home, and reach out directly to them and see how you can support their work and collaborate for a sustainable environment for our children and future generations. And now, oh, go ahead, Anya.
That was so powerful, Jamie, thank you. Let us briefly take a look at the engagement norms. I'm not going to read them all, but like Beth said, everyone's welcome. Your kids, your pod mates, your fur babies. Next slide, please. And let's look at the chat norms. If you feel motivated to speak up, just type stack in the chat and we'll come back to you. Feel free to share in the chat how you're doing throughout the day. Give each other affirmations. It is a skill to be able to handle the training and the chat, and we'll all learn together. So now let's get to know this wonderful training team that's going to be with you for the next 2 days. I'll start with me and then pass it on to Stephanie. My name is Anya Deepak. I'm from the San Francisco team. I'm also part of the national leadership team. I am a loud, opinionated brown woman who spent way too much time in India to really take a lot of racism once I've gotten here at 28 years of age. And what motivates me to do this work is the $60 bill that I had to foot when I took the first organizing call around racial equity at Mothers Out Front from a laundromat in Paris, because I was vacationing and this call had to happen. It was the first call. It got me super excited. I took that call at 9:30 in the night from a laundromat. And I was like, man, okay, this is a hefty bill to pay on roaming. Something better come out of it. And my kid was 2.5 then, and he's 5 now. So We have taken a while to get here, but I'm so excited that we're finally here doing this large cohort training for anti-oppression. I'll pass it on to Stephanie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Bowman. I am the Virginia Interim Organizing Manager, but I also am the National Movement and Campaigns Manager. How I came to this work. Environmental justice has always been something I've been a part of. I come from multiple generations of matriarchs who were business owners, and I first got involved with environmental justice growing vegetables in Kansas City, Kansas. We were a food desert. Our nearest grocery store was in Missouri, and being penalized by the utility company by getting like an intense water bill for trying to feed people in my community to offset being a food desert really irritated me. And so it really got me into environmental work. Skip to where I am now, 15 years later, and I've done this work all over the country. And environmental justice and the intersection to reproductive justice has always been what brought me to Mothers Out Front. And being able to be pregnant and live in neighborhoods and inhale the air and not be worried about the impacts that we're giving our children. And so that is something that now, even more than ever, considering what we're dealing with nationally, is still very relevant to me. And with that, I will pass it to Amy.
Thank you, Stephanie. Hi, everyone. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Jamie Valdez, and I am the Pueblo, Colorado community organizer for Mothers Out Front, actually the Southern Colorado community organizer, and I live in Pueblo. I'm a longtime proud Chicano activist, identify, as I mentioned, as Chicano and Indigenous, but also as multicultural, because I really do have multicultural roots. I'm Indigenous, Spanish, Mexican, Irish, and German. And so I have multicultural ethnicity and multi-generational roots here in Southern Colorado. I came to this work, I started out in racial and economic justice movements. I started out in a student organization when I was in college called MECHA, which is an organization that works to empower Latin American folks through education. And so I moved on from that to economic movements, and environmental justice really was a natural progression for me. I have children and grandchildren of my own, and I want to make sure that we leave behind a world where they can not only live, but thrive. And I want that not only for my kids and grandkids, but for all of our kids and future generations. And so what motivates me to do this work really is the personal aspect. It has to do with the multicultural nature of my family, as well as the future of my kids and grandkids and all of our kids and future generations. And with that, I will pass it over to Beth.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Hi, everybody. I am Beth Ship. I am the new ED of Mothers Out Front. Have been here about a month and a half. My pronouns are she, her. My partner and I live in Highlands Ranch, Colorado. So hi, neighbors, Jamie and Stephanie. Colorado is represented well today. So I show up as a queer, middle-class white woman, right? I grew up with educators as parents. I came to my queerness late in life. And so I show up with that lens, but the main lens that I show up with is as the daughter of Southern born and bred parents who had to work really hard to unlearn a lot of the stories, the narrative that I got from my grandparents as I was a kid. My career path has been through women's rights in a variety of ways, whether it was, I was the political director at NARAL, Pro-Choice America. I was the executive director of LPAC, which is a lesbian and queer women's political action committee. I helped elect women, queer, young people of color when I was at Move On. And the thread that goes through all of that is that I come to this work because I firmly believe that women are the answer to most of the problems in this country, and frankly, in the world. And that we coming together and engaging together intersectionally, collaboratively, and transparently is actually how we win, right? How we make a better climate for our children, our nieces and nephews, in my case. And so that's how I come to this work. And frankly, I come to this work at Mothers Out Front because of the amazing staff and board that I had a chance to meet when I was interviewing. And so their commitment and passion is something that actually moves me every day. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my friend and colleague, Danielle.
Hi, everyone. I'm Danielle Dosunmu. I am coming to you from St. Louis, Missouri. Beth is my cohort mate of having started at Mothers Out Front at about the same time as I did. I have been working in nonprofits in a variety of ways for 15 years and supplemented my nonprofit habit by a few for-profit jobs, but we won't talk about those. I am a multi-racial, multicultural, come from people who, literally one parent grew up in a hut and one parent grew up on a small farm. And I definitely am a product of our lovely environmental climate with childhood asthma, having been raised in more urban areas that did not have the lovely fresh air that my parents' generation had in their different locales. I serve as the Senior Database Administrator for Community Organizing, so helping to connect how our work is making an impact and being able to show that and to be able to help move the movement forward by empowering people to know this is how much power we have and this is how we can build even more power to keep things moving. And anecdotally, the way I got to Mothers Out Front, my mother literally told me a day before I saw this job posting for my position, if I was gonna have kids now, I don't know that I would, because the environment is bad, all the social stuff is bad. I was like, I don't know that you and your brother would have existed if it was now that I'd be having you. So I thought that was just very, fate was trying to direct me where it's like, oh yeah, Mothers Out Front. We're trying to make a future better where people don't have to make that decision that they don't want to keep making more humans because the world is not in a good place. So I come from a place of not necessarily an organizing background, but just a sense of always wanting to help and to help those who don't get the same help. And that can look a lot of different ways. So I've been very proud to be a part of Mothers Out Front because I'm getting to live my dream and do exactly what I have wanted to do. So I'm going to pass it on to Sheila, and I'm excited for you all to be here.
All right. I don't think I could be more excited for you all to be here today. Thank you so much for all the facilitators who introduced themselves. My name is Sheila Keller. I'm the training manager of Mothers Out Front. I use the pronouns she, they, and I'm calling in from Cleveland, Ohio, or the land of the Erie. I have some new wall art behind me. Just have to take the opportunity to share my son's beautiful artwork because one of my identities that's very alive for me today is that of a mother, as well as I know a lot of you on the call. And so other identities alive for me are, being a woman, being a queer woman, being a woman who comes from both Jewish and a settler colonialist background. My mother's side of the family, some of them came over with pilgrims and profited from taking land or receiving land from indigenous people on the Northeast, for things like baubles and coats that they traded for swaths of land that are worth lots and lots of money today. And so as a white woman, I've done a lot of work to trace back my own history and really understand the ways that my privilege, my ability to go to college, to own a home today, all of the things that come with white privilege really are intertwined and built off of the white supremacy in our culture, in our country. And so growing up in a racially integrated school system for a very short period of time, basically people in my parents' generation fought to integrate our school system, became integrated during the time that I was like going to school, and then now is segregated again. That was hugely impactful for me as someone who's an empath and cares about other people, and then really had inequalities right up in my face in my neighborhood and in my schools. And so I'm really happy to be here today to talk with you all, about this topic of how racism enters into climate change issues and then how we can fight that. So I want to just start by giving a little grounding about this project. In June, all of our staff at Mothers Out Front were participants of this training facilitated by AORTA, the Anti-Oppression Resource and Training Alliance. From there, a group of about 10 of us have spent the summer getting trained up, so we are able to facilitate this training with all of you, our members, and then I think also allies and new folks to the organization are here today. As members, volunteers, and staff of Mothers Out Front, we understand that this organization is now prioritizing racial justice by resourcing leaders to engage our ownership and agency of racial justice. As Mothers Out Front, we're committed to centering racial justice in our environmental justice and climate organizing work. This learning series is an integral part of that commitment. We understand that you, as committed leaders and volunteers, hold a lot of the heart of this work, and we want to ensure the member base feels supported and resourced in how to embody racial justice in the important organizing work that we're doing across the country. And that's why we're here today. So I'll pass it on to Anya.
So let's take a minute to arrive in this space. We might be juggling things. We might have families from out of town. We might be out of town. We might have kids around us. Hey, Jordan's baby. And we might be trying to get extra things done before we can attend this training. So thank you for doing all that to commit to this space. We'll take a minute of quiet, do some deep breathing for about a minute. Breathe with me. And breathe out through your mouth if you want to let it all go. Two more. Last one. Let it all out. So remember this feeling. We can go back to this feeling throughout the next 2 days anytime we feel we need to be supported by it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the things that we will do in this training. We will understand racial justice as integral to EJ and climate action. We will understand how racism and inequities show up throughout different levels of our work. We will understand key concepts that are fundamental to Mothers Out Front's work. We will introduce tools for assessing and taking action towards dismantling white supremacy culture. And we understand how to engage members and volunteers equitably in this multiracial organizing context.
Here's some things that we won't do. We won't discuss every component of racism today. We won't engage in a comprehensive group assessment about how racism shows up at Mothers Out Front. And we won't create an action plan today for organizational change across the membership base.
So now you're going to zip into a pair share conversation and have 10 minutes to say hi, what you're most curious about, what you're most excited about these next 2 days, given what we are going to focus on in the training. So we're going to create breakout rooms for 2 or 3 people per breakout room. And remember, you have 10 minutes to say hi and talk about what you're most curious or excited about. And we'll bring you back in 10 minutes.
Oh, everyone made it to their rooms? What?
I know, it's
No way.
it's shocking.
I was like, there must be an arrow I'm missing somewhere. Like, oh, wow,
I was
that's
checking the same thing.
Hello, Stephanie Badass. Like that was like seamless and all.
3 hours. So.
All right, welcome back.
hey, thank you,
All right.
everybody.
We hope you were able to connect with someone new, get clear on your intention for today, carry that intention with you. And if you didn't get to connect with other people, don't worry, we'll have opportunities for connection throughout the day and tomorrow.
All right, thank you, Anya. Good to see everyone back. We just want to say again, this curriculum was developed by AORTA, the Anti-Oppression Resource and Training Alliance. And we want to share with you the assumptions and frameworks that underlie this work and which we are bringing to this conversation. We share them not because we insist you agree with all of these things, but to be transparent about where we're coming from. As you listen to and take in these concepts, you might want to have a notebook and pen close at hand. Feel free to jot down questions, ideas, phrases, or concepts that stand out to you. And so we'll start with systems of oppression exist. What do we mean by systems of oppression? Systems of oppression confer unearned power, authority, and respect to the socially dominant group. This could look very tangible, like wealth or safety, or less tangible, like the way you interact with the world every day. Benefiting from systems of oppression does not mean not suffering. Individual suffering is a completely different metric. Oppression functions systematically to give some people certain benefits, but it doesn't protect us from depression, abuse, illness, despair, etc., though it might provide some buffer against those things.
And we're not here to talk about whether or not these systems like white supremacy exist. We, of course, know that they do, but rather what they look like, how they operate, how can we interrupt them in our organizing work.
The second thing to note is that we live in complexity. The vast majority of us benefit from and are harmed by systemic oppression. It's rarely as simple as someone having privilege or not, being an oppressor or being oppressed. Awareness of this complexity can help build empathy, compassion, and understanding, all of which are necessary for building real equity.
Next, all systems of oppression are interconnected. Systems of oppression depend on each other, amplify and change each other, and often function as a tightly woven knot with many strings weaving in and out of each other to create an elaborate braid. This means that Black women's experience of sexism and misogyny may be fundamentally different than that of white women. Homophobia has substantively different impacts on wealthy queer people and poor queer people, etc. This is what intersectionality means. A term coined by Black feminist lawyer Kimberly Crenshaw.
Dismantling systemic oppression will benefit everyone. Because all systems of oppression are interconnected, all of our liberation is bound up together. We believe these systems are fundamentally dehumanizing, even if you benefit from them. For instance, ending homophobia will be liberatory for straight people, cisgender people, men. White people have a personal stake in ending white supremacy. Disability justice means more freedom for all bodies.
So blame and shame do not help to dismantle these systems. While blame and shame are valid emotions, they're not useful as a political or pedagogical strategy. Taking responsibility for our actions, our history, our broader context, and the actions and legacies of our ancestors does, though. Building the skills to work collectively, to see our liberation as connected and together across differences also does. This doesn't mean that we don't name when people are causing harm or that we think people experiencing harm shouldn't name it. Sometimes blame is warranted, but when we apply strategies of blame and shame broadly, it can lead to a lot of stuckness, and it can lead to us not seeing the systemic nature of the problems.
Social justice and equity work is painful and joyful. This is hard life work. This goes beyond workshops. It also is work that can be joyful, relationship building. It can be inherently humanizing. It's a challenge, but shouldn't feel like a slog. We understand this space can hold a lot of deep personal healing. There's some grief that we all come with. We encourage everyone to be present, but please discern what you need, take care of yourself throughout our time together. And change and liberation are possible. Because the problems we confront are so big, it might be tempting to feel like working to make change isn't worth it because we won't win. But we do see change happening in our work and in our world every single day. So let's take some time to digest these. We aren't going to discuss these, but we hope they'll show up in our conversations over the course of the next 2 sessions. So let's take 2 minutes of quiet time for you to jot down any ideas, aha moments, or questions that are coming out of this. So bring that journal and pen out. Start jotting away. All right, now that we have done that, let's get into this. So engaging in learning, alignment, activation around racial justice work in a multiracial group can be uncomfortable, can be challenging, painful, confusing even at times. Participants of color and white people have often had distinct and sometimes divergent learning needs. In this training, we'll work hard to design a curriculum that centers all of you, as well as the political possibility that can come from this work, right? That's what we want to do. We know that being in the space might require patience, grace, resilience, energy, and self-regulation from participants of color. And showing up to the space as anti-racist for white people requires curiosity, humility, courage, self-regulation, listening, and grace as well. A coalition is when people who represent different organizations and communities come together to build political power. Even though you all form one organization, Mothers Out Front, in a sense, when we show up for racial justice learning in a multiracial format, it is like we're doing coalition work. Audre Lorde told us the difference is that raw and powerful connection from which our personal power is forged. Looking at this slide, I just want to remind us what activist, freedom singer, and culture worker Bernice Johnson Reagan says about coalition work. Coalition work is not done in your home. Coalition work has to be done in the streets, and it is some of the most dangerous work you can do. And you shouldn't look for comfort. Some people will come to a coalition and they rate the success of the coalition on whether or not they feel good when they get there. They're not looking for a coalition. They're looking for a home. In a coalition, you have to give, and it is different from your home. You can't stay there all the time. You go to the coalition for a few hours, then you go back. And then you go back and coalesce some more. We deeply believe that multiracial and cross-cultural formations are potent, powerful, a huge threat to the systems of oppression we are dedicating our lives to dismantle. So thank you for showing up brave in this powerful coalition space.
All right, so we're gonna do a few more minutes of journaling here. I want you to just write down one intention for yourself in this coalition space. And we'll give you a couple of minutes to think about that, write it down somewhere, and then we'll come back together. Okay, so we're gonna take a 10-minute break now. You feel free to, continue journaling if you still have some thoughts or intentions you would like to put down for yourself. And we will come back at 4 after the hour, wherever you are.
Let's arrive back in the space. Some of you never left. So thanks for holding the space for all of us as we're getting back. All right, do we have everyone back? Oh, we grew by 2 participants, great. So as we move into exploring key concepts together, we want to start by asking ourselves, why is it important to have a shared understanding of the concepts as a group? Please take a moment to drop what you think the answer is in the chat. There are no right or wrong answers. Why do you think it's important to have a shared understanding of concepts as a group? Decreases misunderstanding. That's right, to communicate. Helps with talk about difficult things. Helps us travel further together. Yeah. Communication is more effective. Imagine saying white supremacy culture to a person that's never heard that before. It can be scary. Yeah, shared vocabulary without guessing, second guessing. Yeah, when we start with a common sense of where we are, we can go farther together. I want you all to take a moment to see all the stuff that's coming in the chats. There's some deep learning in there. Forms base upon which to build together. That's right. Yeah, Anita, that's so true. It really helps you think more in group terms and individual terms. Yeah, how do we get our whole group together? Elevates hidden assumptions. That's right. Thank you everyone for sharing. And we're going to go through an exercise now, and we are going to look for mutual understandability. So instead of textbook correctness, we're going to focus on the true meaning of some of these terms. Right, grow together. It makes the work less scary. That's right. That's right. Thank you, everyone. Pass it on to Stephanie now.
Okay, everyone. So these are the terms and the concepts that we will be exploring today. Environmental justice, white supremacy, American environmentalism, and indigenous sovereignty. So we understand that there are many terms and concepts that inform our work. And we are starting with these 4 concepts because we feel like they are fundamental to this chapter of our work as an organization. So we are now going to do an activity that we like to call text rendering. So the term render has many meanings. For this exercise, it would be most useful to think of the culinary uses of the word, specifically the melting down of a substance to derive its essence. So similarly, this activity is designed to help us to get to the essence of what we understand is most important about these terms. So together, we aim to construct a shared meaning, clarify and align our thinking about each of these concepts, which are central to Mothers Out Front work. So this activity will be broken into 3 parts. So in part 1, we are breaking into small groups to deep dive into one of these terms. In part 2, we will have teachbacks where representatives will get to teach the larger group about the concept. And then in part 3, we will get a chance to individually reflect on what we've learned and what it feels most important to remember about each concept as we move forward.
But before we get started, we'd like to take a moment to activate our prior knowledge. So you might have some ideas about what these concepts already mean. Let's take a moment to look at each of these terms. As you read each one, what's your current understanding of what it means? There are no right answers. Take a minute, jot it down in your journal, a few words of like what each of these means to you, and we'll come back to this later. So let's take a minute to do that.
Oh no, the slide. Can
you
you all not see the slide with the 4 terms? And
It now.
Okay, 20 seconds more. Right. Pens down, everyone. So now we're going to break into small groups. In those small groups, we're going to go through the 4 steps outlined in this document that Daniel just put in the chat. So you're going to have 3 things on your screen. Okay, so set it up how you're comfortable. Billy, yes, please take some time now to do it. But let me just give you the instructions first. So you're going to have your Zoom where you see my pretty face. You're going to have the text rendering instructions, the document that Daniel just posted, and you're going to have Google slide deck that we're going to post. Again, that's where you're going to capture some of the key points. So as a group, you're going to work on the slide deck. For your own understanding, you're going to have the document and your Zoom open.
Okay, so just to go over it again, because I know it's like, oh, we're giving a lot of direction. In your small groups, you'll each have 15 minutes to go through these 4 rounds together. So in round 1, each person will share a sentence from the document that they think and feel is particularly significant. Round 2 is each person shares a phrase that they think and feel is particularly significant, and they scribe the records in each phrase. Round 3, each person shares the word that they think and feel is particularly significant, and they also record their answers on the group's Google slide. And then in round 4, consider together with your group how you might represent your shared understanding of this concept visually or in a format other than words. So in other words, it could be a symbol, it could be an image, it could be a song, a sound that could capture the meaning of this concept. We do encourage mindfulness around these images and around these symbols and sounds chosen here. Please avoid violent images and think creatively about how we can represent these concepts. We understand that there's real harm associated with some of these concepts, and we want to ensure what we bring together here is not only accessible, but is generative to our collective learning process. So let's hold this together.
No, so you're not the only one that's lost. The first time we did this exercise, we were lost too, but here's some instruction coming again. So look at the Google slides that were dropped in the chat. So open that up, have your Zoom ready. You're going to have 3 things, your Zoom, your document, and your slides. And you can edit directly in the slide. So what you're going to do is in the 15 minutes, you're going to figure out a way as a group to learn more about each of these concepts. The first thing you'll do in your breakout room is take a few moments to introduce yourself. Very brief, name, team, pronouns if you like, and then remember to assign a group facilitator, a scribe, and a person to teach back. So those are your 3 roles that you're trying to get, and we'll be in some of your groups, and we will remind you in the chat. So a group facilitator, a scribe who's going to write it out, and a person to do a teach back. And so there are 2 documents you're going to be looking at simultaneously. Any questions so far?
Anya,
so Leanne's question. Yeah, so Leanne's question, are we supposed to take the sentences we use from what's already presented in the slides? So the slides are empty, but the document has definitions. So read it, see what stands out for you, key words, key phrases, and images that come, and put it in there. Each group do this for all the phrases? No, you will be assigned to 1 term. So we have 4 groups for each term because we have such a large group. So the slides are also in the chat. Let's drop that again so that everyone has all the links. Great. So we have 2 links in the chat. Thank you, Nikki. See, we will facilitate each other. And one of the 4 of you in that group might have gotten it. Now, let's say you didn't get any of this. you'll come back with a better understanding of the term that you're reading about anyways. So we will meet our goals one way or the other. But remember, when you go in, introduce yourself and assign roles so that you know who's going to do a teach back when you come back. Are we ready to go? Any more questions?
I don't know.
The chat is always going to be with you.
I don't know how to view the two documents at once.
So you can start with the first document and then you're going to shift to the second document. So you kind of don't need it together, but if you can put it kind of right next to each other.
I printed it out. I just printed it out now. I don't think I can juggle on the screen, but I can.
Yeah, I can't either. That's a good idea.
And you can also have someone from your team read out the definition out loud so that you can just be listening and internalizing it. But yes, print it out if it's useful. The document you're reacting to, yeah.
We all do all four?
No, you just do the one that you're in the breakout room for. Okay. So, so once we start the breakout rooms, you'll see which one you're in, and it will show the name of the breakout room. So you'll know, and then you'll go to one of those slides and start putting it. Yeah, we only need one note taker, but yeah. I had to do the exercise to figure out like what was going on, so you'll be fine. All right.
So when we get a bunch of slides, how do we know what document we're reading?
So there are two documents. One is the document with all the concepts, and one is the slides. So you need to be looking at two things, and you will automatically be looking at your Zoom because you're interacting with people.
And if looking at two things is difficult, like Sheila shared in the chat, you can have someone in your breakout group just read the definitions as folks like do their feedback in the other document.
That tech savvy, that congratulations.
No worries. All right.
Okay, should we get into the rooms, and it might make sense once we do that?
Yeah, well, how do you get in the room?
We're about to send you there, no worries.
I hope somebody knows how to navigate that, because I mean, it's enough trouble navigating to the room, and then you know, I just went and I seen all those slides, and I says, well, what the hell am I supposed to read to find sentences and phrases and words out of it? When I see it,
we'll help you in the small group.
Which slide?
Hey, Carol, hi, it's Beth. You're going to be fine in the group. Your team's going to have you that's in the group. And if you continue to have questions or need some help, always feel free to jump back into the main room and you can ask us. But I promise you, I know it seems confusing, but you got this, Carol. You're going to do great in this. I'm convinced.
And Zoom will take you in and out. Nothing for you to do there.
With 100 slides, and they want you to read one of them, but they don't know which slide you're supposed to click on.
Carol,
the group is going to take care of it.
Have trust. We've got you. You're going to be fine. I promise.
For those of you still here, you should have a little box pop up that's asking you to join a breakout room. So go ahead and do that. If you don't see it, let us know.
I don't see it.
Phyllis Kirshner. I
see several other people have written, they don't see it either.
Okay. It looks like we've invited you to White Supremacy 1. So look around for some kind of pop-up on your screen.
Now it's showing up. I only had one person in my breakout round, me.
That Renee?
I don't see it. I'm still on the screen seeing your slides, and I don't see any breakout room invitation.
Do you have a little box down at the bottom that says more? Do you see that?
Or 3 dots that say it with the more underneath. An ellipsis.
Is this a breakout room now?
Yeah.
No.
Not yet. No.
Not right now, you're not in one. No.
So at the bottom of the screen, do you see like a control panel where you can turn your camera on and off and your microphone and so forth? If you can find that, there should be an option for more. And if you click on that, you should be able to click on an option for breakout rooms.
I see join breakout room, but I was the only one in it.
Yeah, some people took a little bit long to get their notice to join the room. So I would just be a little patient.
Well, how do I rejoin it? Because I just came with, it was white supremacy.
Let me see, Renee. Let me see if I can look your name up and move you into the right room since you hopped out. Give me 1 second. All right, let's see. Yeah, rooms are a little bigger than they need to be. Yeah, I don't see. Oh, you were in White Supremacy 1. All right, I'm moving you there now. I don't know what happened though.
Can you move me somewhere as well? I didn't get
Jordan,
anything.
I'll take Jordan and assign her to a room right now.
Thank you,
Thank
Sheila.
you.
Okay. Yeah, Renee, it says that you just need to click join. So in your bottom right, there may be 4 little squares that say breakout rooms, and I would click it and then look for the little button that says White Supremacy 1.
Leanne, are you able to see your room?
I'm not, I don't have an invitation to a breakout room anywhere.
Okay, I will assign you to one now.
I also do not have an invitation to a breakout room.
Carol, you need a room? Okay. I'm moving you to White Supremacy 2.
I've also lost my links.
No worries. We'll resend it in the chat. I'll repost that. It's okay.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. White
No
Supremacy.
worries.
I was assigned to a room, but there was nobody else there.
Yeah, there's been folks hanging out in here who are a little lost. So I would just join back your room and just see if it's full now. It looks like most of them are getting full. There was like 2.
I don't have an assignment anymore. I don't know.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Let me find you. No worries. It's okay.
Sure.
Hey, Suzanne.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Thanks for all your help, Danielle.
Yeah, no problem.
Honestly, it's great.
So I think you're in Environmental Justice 1, Suzanne.
Yeah, but when I went there, when I did that, there was nobody there, and I waited and I looked at the slide, and somebody was already typing in there. So I don't know how. So
No worries. Leanne Canty is in there now, and now she's alone. So I didn't want her to hop out looking for you. So I would just click in the bottom is 4 little squares that say breakout rooms. Okay, I think Suzanne hopped over. Okay, great.
No, I don't.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, I saw you move on my screen.
Join breakout room. Okay, all right, got it.
All right, perfect. All right, and then Susan Ledoux with Watertown, Mass. Are you here with us? I think she's asleep.
No.
Because and Rosemary, I think you're in group 1 too.
Yeah, I just have a quick task that I need to do.
Okay.
That's why I didn't go to that.
No worries.
I declined. So thanks so much. Going
Okay.
well so far.
No worries. I'm glad you're doing okay.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
It's nice to see you too. All right. Demea, do you need to be sent to a room? Let's see.
She's in Indigenous Sovereignty 4.
Okay, so maybe this is just her video if she's already in there.
She's not joined, but that's the room she was assigned.
Okay. Oh, we can pause this recording for a second.
All right. Let's move on to our next term, Indigenous sovereignty. Step into a teaching role. Can I see some hands go up? Anyone want to volunteer to teach us about Indigenous sovereignty? What is the most urgent bite-sized thing that you want us to learn from this? And remember, we are all learning. There's no right or wrong. You can put it in the chat if you don't feel confident. The prompt is pretending none of us know about this concept. What do you need us to know about it? What do you find sticky? What's exciting? What images did you pick?
I'm okay presenting.
Go for it.
And I hope we can have the slide up as well.
Do you remember which slide it was?
The Indigenous sovereignty, which is totally new for me. I'm not sure the rest of my group. National sovereignty is what we all learned in history about treaties that were taking lands away from Indigenous people. And Indigenous sovereignty is about
Judy, was this your slide, the one with the tree picture?
Yeah, that's perfect. And the key phrases that really were helpful is Indigenous sovereignty means the people, the Indigenous people, and it will continue as long as the people continue. And what the people are their traditional knowledge, their culture, their art, their belonging to their community. And the Indigenous, the people exist whether the nation state exists or not, whether their treaty exists or not. The key words that we had were the people, I think, the culture, and then we also had the sticky part was carbon pricing, because within the definition there was opposition to carbon pricing, opposition to carbon taxing, and we wanted to acknowledge that carbon is a natural thing, and so it needs to be respected and included as such. That doesn't mean it needs to be pulled out of the ground, but that carbon is not the enemy, it's a natural thing. Our image was the oak tree, because it exists all over the United States. It was probably a very present and appreciated part of Indigenous communities.
Judy, thank you so much for that. That was a learning moment for me, definitely, and I hope it was for a lot of you as well. I see Sue. Sue, you want to go next?
Yeah, could you put up slide, where's our slide? 20. Yeah, put up our slide. I just wanted to mention a tricky term for us, which was sovereignty. We got the Indigenous part. It was the notion of sovereignty. When we think of the sovereign, we think of a large dominant power. That was the first image we had there on our slide. And so we grappled a bit with, so how does sovereignty, how do you put that together with Indigenous knowledge and Indigenous cultural practices? And what we came up with, I'm not sure actually Anya got booted out right in the middle of the good part. So jump in, Anya, if I say things you wouldn't agree with, but we talked about a new version of sovereignty, thinking of sovereignty as the authority of the people instead of the state or even the tribe, but it's the authority of all people. That's where the notion of sovereignty plays into it. That was tricky, still tricky for me.
And we're going to sit with these concepts for a long time to figure out what these mean and how our understanding of them change.
Mm-hmm.
So we've had two people teach us. So now, given this new layer of understanding, let's take a minute to reflect, all of us, on what stands out about this term for us.
You're right.
Thank you so much, Sue and Judy.
Okay. Thank you all so much. And now we are going to move to our next and final term, which is white supremacy. So in the same way that our colleagues before stepped up into the teacher role, made space as a teacher, can I get one representative from one or two of the groups who discussed white supremacy to share? I say, hi, Jordan, I got you. Jordan, do you want to start with us? Again, what we are going to be doing, pretending that none of us know about this concept. What do you need us to know about the term? Jordan, you and your group, what do you find sticky? What's exciting? And then what images did you pick and why?
Okay, so we are slide 18, if you want to pull that up. And with this term, I think it can absolutely be brought into all of the categories here. And that's coming to terms with our nation being built and further doing to other countries. The genocide of Indigenous people and the enslavement of African people. And what we boiled it down to was refers to a political or socioeconomic class where white people enjoy structural advantage and rights that other racial and ethnic groups do not, both at a collective and individual level. What we got out of that was structural advantage and rights. And what we got out of that was structural. So for our image, we actually put the pyramid of capitalism. And that is basically the structure that is holding up and embedding the white supremacy. What is sticky, we found, is coming to terms with it as a society and how we go about that while living in this capitalistic system. So we really wanted to hone on the fact that it is structural. It is in everything, everywhere. We are no better than when it started. We're just in different ways. And that's what we did.
Thank you, Jordan. That's really powerful. I agree with Jamie. I really love that image. Let's see, somebody had posted, I think Stephanie, you posted for me. Who else had?
Andra, A-N-D-R-A, had stacked.
Awesome. Thank you, Anya. A-N-D-R-A, will you come on camera?
Yeah, I can.
And can you pronounce your name for me, please?
Andra, and I can't show my video or I'll get knocked off. But
no worries, Andra. Thank you so much.
We're at slide 19.
Awesome.
We had several people who were really struck with the first sentence in the description of white supremacy, which is that white people and the ideas and beliefs and all of white people are superior to those of people of color, BIPOC. And also was important that it is structural. That's an important piece about the socioeconomic system being built on white supremacy, that white people enjoy this structural advantage. But we all agreed that the word that was sticky was superior, in part because it's painful and because we need to face that as white people, because that is what's embedded in the water we swim in our lives. And we thought that the image that best exemplified that was the Massachusetts state seal with the white arm holding a sword over a indigenous person, which we're working to get rid of that seal, that is.
Andra, thank you. That was very powerful. I don't know how others felt about it, but I found it to be very powerful. So thank you. If other groups that were discussing white supremacy want to drop anything in the chat, feel free. I want to thank all of our teachers who were teaching us about white supremacy. And for us in the listening role, let's take one final minute to return to our original notes on white supremacy and reflect on the following. Given this new layer of understanding, what stands out for you about this term?
All right, so these are big concepts. We're going to take a 5-minute break now, and I just encourage you to take those 5 minutes while you're getting your water, going to the bathroom, but to silently reflect on these concepts. What was it like to explore these? How do you want to bring these concepts to life in your work at Mothers Out Front or any other organization that you're in? So we'll take a 5-minute break now. We'll be back at 18 after the hour. Thank you. All right. So Mothers Out Front exist in a long line of people, communities, and organizations fighting for environmental justice. To understand the potential, responsibility, and context that Mothers Out Front organizes inside of, we must deepen and align our understanding of how race and racism has always shaped fights for environmental justice. Mothers Out Front is part of an ecosystem, a lineage, and a legacy. The way we are going to explore this is by interacting with a timeline of environmental justice. This timeline has been created by Sunny Dakota, a queer, trans, mixed race, Indigenous person, David McElhatton, a white trans person, and Jenna Peters Golden. Let me shut my window. Unless you want to hear a mower. A queer Jewish person. One thing you will notice about this timeline is that many important events are not on here. The purpose of this timeline is not to reflect back every meaningful moment of environmental justice. That isn't the purpose, nor would it be possible. Show me on video or type me in the chat if you are skilled at noticing what's missing from a story. Beth. Me. Oh, I wish I could see more faces. I know a lot of us are. Me, says Nora. Yeah. All right, so yes, what a great skill. We are lovingly putting that superpower away right now so we can engage in learning and connection around what is present on the timeline. So go ahead and put that superpower away. We invite you to learn new things from this timeline or understand things you already knew about in new contexts. So let's take superpower of ours to notice what's missing, take off that cape. You can do this with me and put it in a drawer or throw it to the side. Okay, awesome. And now I will pass it on to Jamie.
Thank you, Sheila. I'm now going to give you instructions on how we are going to engage in the timeline. We're going to open breakout rooms and ask that you join in groups of 3 to 4 to a room, and the room is your choice. We're going to ask you to go ahead and choose the room you'd like to join, but please try to make these rooms about 3 to 4 people. The choices are urban, suburban, rural, and BIPOC. You'll notice that we have 1 or more breakout room options that are just for participants of color. Some of you might have experience with caucusing or affinity groups where people circle up based on a shared point of identity. If you are a participant of color and you think being in a breakout room with other people of color will support your best participation and learning, this might be a good choice for you. Of course, people of color participants are invited, or participants of color are invited to choose any room they want, though we ask that white folks who don't identify as people of color do not select this choice. Please try to keep each room to 3 to 4 people once again. The first thing you will do in your breakout room is take 3 minutes to introduce yourselves. Briefly share your name, pronouns if you like, and what chapter of Mothers Out Front you are a part of. Then you will explore the timeline by quietly reading. We expect it will take you 10 to 15 minutes to read. Once everyone has finished reading the timeline, your group will answer the discussion questions provided by engaging in a dynamic let me start that again. Once everyone has finished reading the timeline, your group will answer the discussion questions provided by engaging in a dynamic conversation. You will have about 15 minutes for the discussion. Pick one person to share a gem from your conversation with the big group. We'll come back together and enjoy sharing some key takeaways. Here's how you're going to do this. You will have 3 visual things open: Zoom, the timeline, and a document with the instructions and discussion questions. When you start, you'll look at Zoom to check in, then look at the timeline tab for quiet reading, then look at Zoom and the questions for discussion. Here is the link to the EJ timeline being dropped into the chat now. Please open this link, but don't start looking at it until you're in your breakouts. We have that link. Yes, there we go. Okay. Here is the link. Next, we're going to drop the link to the discussion questions in the chat. Please don't write in the original copy, but make a copy for your group. And if you wish, you can take notes there. For anyone who's not familiar, once you open the link, if you go up to the upper left corner and click on File, one of the options there should be to make a copy of that document for your group. We hope you enjoy learning new things or learning things you already knew in a new context. Before we open the rooms, I want to check for understanding. On a scale from 1 to 5, how clear are the instructions to you? 1 equals, I have no idea what we're doing. And 5 equals, so clear I could explain it to someone else. Go ahead and put your number in the chat, please. See a couple of 4s, 5s, 2, 4, and 3, couple 3s. Great. All right, I'm seeing mostly high numbers and a few lower ones. For those of you who are below a 4, luckily you'll likely be in a group with people who feel confident and understand these instructions and will not mind helping or explaining this to you. So rely on your buddies for support or your group mates. And if you need extra help, if you need anything else, please feel free to come back into the main room for help. Yes, I agree, Beth. Good thing no one is a 1. I think we've got mostly some understanding here.
Okay, so thank you, I think, Stephanie, for making the breakout rooms. And we will open them now. You can follow the instructions that were given by Jamie to join a room you're opting into of no more than 4 people in a room, though, please. Thank you, Anita, for sharing. To make a copy, you just go to File and then make a copy at the top left.
I'm copying, and then how do I? Oh, here it is. Okay, Padlet.com. Is that what I'm copying? Copy.
No, it's the Word document with the 3 questions in it that you want to copy.
Oh.
We'll drop that into the chat again.
How do we get the timeline?
I just should have sent another one for you in the chat.
Okay.
So I'll say here's the link to the EJ timeline. You should be able to click that.
Docs.google.com, document D. Do I copy that?
Yeah, so that will be what you can use for note taking. Not everyone needs to do it, just whoever your note taker is in your group.
Well, how do I get out of here?
Oh, to the breakout groups?
How do I gonna copy it? Because how am I supposed to get out? How am I supposed to get? I'm waiting to get. There's no yellow thing. How am I supposed to copy anything?
Once we send you to your breakout groups, just one person in your breakout group needs to.
Not even sending us.
It's coming. It's coming. Just be patient.
Yes, it's coming. Just give us 1 second.
And technically, you're not sent to a breakout room. I can't see who's talking. You're going to pick one. So it will pop up with options.
I have trouble with the copy and paste because sometimes it doesn't let me.
Why don't you let the person in your room that you're working with, you'll be in groups of 4. So why don't you just take this and put it away and give it to someone else in your room? You'll probably have another person who's a little more tech savvy with you there.
I mean, sometimes the screen doesn't get small because there's.
Does anyone else have problems right now with getting into your room?
Here, make your screen small, whatever the words were.
Hey, Carol, what room do you want to be in? Do you want to be in urban, suburban? Suburban. Stephanie or Danielle, are you able to put Carol in a group where there's a few other people in one of the suburban groups?
Yes, we can do that.
Awesome. And then I think maybe Carol, there will be other folks in that room
that can do the note taking for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't worry about it. It's okay. There's enough of us here that can support you. So for those of you that are still hearing like, why haven't I gone to a breakout room? Because this is a self-assignment. So all I'm asking is for you in your Zoom to go and click those little squares that say breakout rooms, and then you'll click which one you feel like applies to you. If you primarily do work in rural community, if you do work primarily in a suburban or urban, just select that group and just click join. It should be a little blue button.
I don't see.
I don't see that.
I don't either. I don't see anything.
I'm gonna start with.
I don't see it either.
I'm gonna start just moving. Phyllis,
okay.
Do you want to be in rural, urban, suburban, or I don't know if you would identify as BIPOC.
And if
suburban.
Okay, so I'll move you there, and then someone else take the next person.
Yeah, if you're unable to move yourself, just share in the chat where you want to go, or just come off mute and let us know, and we'll move you.
And what are the choices?
Suburban, urban, rural, and then BIPOC.
The icon is in the lower menu. It's right beside the reactions icon. So if you click the thing that looks like a window, the main window.
Okay.
Thank you, Anita.
Sure.
I don't see a reactions.
It's like a circle smiley face at the bottom of your screen where it's like next to the chat box. It looks like a little smiley emoji face with a plus mark.
And it's a square that says breakout room.
Mm-hmm. It's like, I think 3 little squares.
Four like windows.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I see some folks moving, and I'm going to start moving folks over, okay?
Yes, in the chat, add where you would like to be moved to if you haven't. So Joan, Robin, Sloan, drop into the chat where you want to be moved to, and we'll move you. Or if that's hard for you, Joan, where do you want to go?
I just clicked on Suburban 5.
Okay. Excellent.
But does that mean I'm in there?
Not in there. You just said that? I lost track.
Joan.
Joan said she wants to be where?
With Suburban 5.
Okay, I should have just, maybe something will pop up for you now. Leslie, did you not get moved yet? Or maybe she had 2 open because I thought I moved to Leslie. Sloan, where would you like to be? Can you unmute?
I seem to be out of the whole thing. I'm at launch meeting. I'm sort of in and out. I'm totally, I can't manipulate anything.
Let me move you to a group and then people can help you go through the conversation. So do you live in a rural, suburban, or urban area?
Suburban is fine.
Okay, thank you. Now something should pop up to join. Leslie?
Nothing's popped up yet. And
Where do you?
in urban.
Thank you.
I did assign you to urban. You don't see anything? Okay, there she goes.
I just reassigned her to a different urban room.
Thank you. Judy or Margaret, Susan, Robin, you want to chat in or tell us where you want to be moved?
Suburban.
Suburban for Robin? Okay. This is something to keep in mind. We're going to have more suburban rooms than others probably for other trainings. What about you, Judy? Where do you want to go? Can you unmute? There you go.
Suburban.
Suburban for Judy. Okay, whoops, someone already moved you. We're too fast. Did you see something pop up?
Yes.
Okay. Click on that. And then Susan, are you here? Where would you like to be moved to? Because she might not be here. All right, let's reassess time. Oh, you're back, Sloan. What happened? Unmute and we can hear you. Can you unmute yourself, Sloan? We can't hear you.
There was no one in her room.
I'll try again.
Yeah, I just sent you to another room because it showed that there was only one person in that room with her. So I just moved her to a bigger room. Hopefully that solved it.
To the chat. And I'm hoping you keep your share back concise and short. So what is one key takeaway from your group's discussion?
We just had one that I thought was really remarkable. And that was in looking at the timeline, there was a lot of information that was new to various members. But I think Damia really summarized it, really hit the nail on the head when she remarked that she wasn't so much surprised by the racism and exploitation events that occurred as by the constant cycling of advocacy required because the problems didn't get solved and as time went on. And so we constantly have to revisit the problems and try and solve them. And she asked that second question, what can we do differently in Mothers Out Front and our other organizations to really make progress instead of recycling advocacy to keep solving the same problems?
Thank you, Velma. I see Felicia is in the stack next.
Just a little bit more of the same. Like, we had no idea that the national parks were created on Native land who were forced out, and that it was sure at the behest of these traditional environmental groups that we now are part of, and we don't know our history. We need to learn more of our history and make reparations or apologies or whatever. Yeah.
Amen. Thank you. Now I see Randy is in the stack next.
I just am feeling a visceral reaction how brutally violent this history is, and that I think that this is only possible when you see people as less than human, and white powers that be seeing people of color as less than human. And I know that absolutely is the case still today, and will continue to be the case until we succeed in stopping this. But there's a long history of human violence, but this is, I don't know, maybe something we can speak up a little louder about.
Thank you, Randy. Now I'm going to pass it to Billy in the stack.
Got so many things open, I couldn't find the unmute key. What surprised us, I think, was similar to what other people have said. There were things in there we didn't know about. And we were surprised that even in the 60s, they were still evicting Native Americans from national parks. The whole thing about Greenpeace appropriating the symbol and then changing it. And we're surprised that with all the environmental groups out there, still how separate we are, we're not working together, and how much more powerful it would be if we all joined forces together.
Absolutely. Thank you, Billy. And now I'm going to pass it to Anita.
Sorry, did you mean me, Anita? Anita
Yes.
Dobbs? Oh, well.
Put your name in the stack, Anita. I had an Anita in the stack.
Oh, I was putting my comment in there that we were just like, what the, really, what? And we don't want to do it that way. And we know that in the future, if we're not careful and look behind the curtain in everything that we're trying to do, we could have some unintended consequences, but we definitely do not want to continue that path.
Now passing on to Rachel.
Okay, did Leora? Okay, that's all right. I'll go now. Thank you. Well, yeah, there was a lot. I just really had an aha moment, a moment of knowing that Teddy Roosevelt was he's always known positively for starting all the national park system. And now I understand that really did not. That wasn't really such a great thing that he did, because it meant removing indigenous people from their land. I mean, I knew he was the imperialist and, took Puerto Rico and the Philippines and Cuba, but he also did that. And it just makes me think that it's wonderful that Sierra Club has done a lot. That wonderful article about racism is killing the planet, and how the Audubon has lost an opportunity to change the name and to really understand how racism was part of the founding of the Audubon Society. They didn't have to change the name right away, but they could have started the conversation. And we have an Audubon right here locally, and it would have been a great thing to talk about how racism and quote unquote environmentalism have an intersectionality. And so it just brought up a lot of things for me. Thank you.
So much, Rachel. Next, I see Neely in the chat, and we are running a few minutes behind, but this conversation is so good. This is kind of the meat or the tofu of where we want to be. So we're going to let it run over a few more minutes, and hopefully that's okay with everybody.
I think Leora was ahead of me in the stack. Leora, do you want to go first?
Oh, thanks, Neely. Sure. So our group did discuss a lot of things that everybody else did, that we've been misled, and there's so much we weren't taught or we didn't hear that wasn't disclosed. And how one person really brought up, how can we get this timeline out? How can we educate more people? And it's more important than ever with the CRT backlash, continuing white supremacist system that we're all living in, and try to fight it with getting this timeline out. Other comments is that many of us didn't know about the Red Deal, and we were interested in reading about it. And it was good to hear that Greenpeace acknowledged their mistake. I think that summarizes the new topics that we discussed, or new points.
Thank you, Leora. Now on to Neely.
I just want to add one thing to the discussion that came up, that BJ and our group raised, how so much of all the way through, so much of what we see driving is profit and is people seeking money, from early fur traders who came with some of the colonists to enslaving humans, to the water in Flint, that underneath all of it is the desire for profit.
Absolutely. And then our last person, let's see who was after Neely, is Sue. And then we'll end there with the comments.
That me, Sue? Yeah, I just wanted, nobody in our group had heard of the Red Deal. How many of you have heard of the Red Deal? Wave your hands if you have. We think of ourselves as informed advocates, and yet we hadn't even heard about that. I mean, we've got blinders on. We're barking up a very narrow alley, and maybe we can open ourselves to the world. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of this information is kept from us for a reason, right? Which is why being here in this space and learning this different and for a lot of us new information is so important and so radical. So I heard a lot of themes in what people were saying, and just some of them are, there's so much we didn't know. And I don't think that's something we need to blame ourselves for, but to recognize that that was kept from us for a reason. Things like the Red Deal, that creating the park system removed Indigenous people from their lands. This is knowledge is power, and the way we use our power in our organizing is now going to change, and it's going to be informed by this new information. So that's a beautiful thing. How the history of the environmental movement was embedded with white supremacy, even with people that we have thought of as our, heroes, that they had a lot of racism in the way they operated. And so maybe they're not cleanly the heroes we thought that they were. And then questions about how do we change this moving forward to make sure we don't perpetuate white supremacy in our movement now, and obviously, especially at Mothers Out Front. And then lastly, I heard, that there's a driving force of profit and seeking money behind a lot of the things that were on this timeline. And that's all good information that arms us in a way to do our organizing moving forward. So as we prepare for tomorrow's session, let's just remember to bring these gems with us. And I will pass it on to Beth now.
Thanks, Sheila. And thank you all so much for all of your discussion and really digging into some of these themes that, like you said, a lot of us did not know about them before. Y'all, wow, we have done a lot today, haven't we? From systems framing and thinking about coalition space to text rendering and time traveling back in time to find our place in an environmental justice lineage. Today has been really full, and I hope that you all are feeling the same. Thank you so much for your effort. Thanks so much for your presence here, the participation that you've offered today. We're so excited to spend tomorrow with you as well. East Coasters, 5 to 8 p.m. Our West Coast friends, 2 to 5. All of us in the mountain zone is 3 to 6. And our Central Time friends are going to be here from 4 to 7. And tomorrow we're going to be digging into understanding more about how systemic racism operates and what we can do to build more effective multiracial movements for environmental justice and for Mothers Out Front.
Maybe in a minute, Phyllis, we're just going to wrap it up, and then we'll have, people can stay on and talk. Great. On a respectful time. So just to wrap it up today, I want you to drop into the chat, what are 3 words to describe how you are leaving today's training? Let me see those 3 words, how you're leaving today's training. Stretched. All right, I love that. Learning new realities. More informed now, better informed. Connected, intrigued. These are popping in so quickly. Sorry if I'm missing some. Together on this. That's awesome. Learning, connected, wondering. So thank you for sharing. And before we leave today, we have a couple of important announcements. One, for those of you who participated in this series as part of the Base Building Leadership Academy, I can't see you all, but raise your hands if you're here. I know there's some hands out there. Congratulations, you're 1 step away from completing the Base Building series. So this was session 5 of 6 sessions. That's right, Anita. I see the dance. Do a dance, do a dance to celebrate. You guys are more armed with more information that's been kept from you and techniques for base building. So we're going to go out there and kick some beep as Mothers Out Front in our teams. And then if you appreciated today's training, and you want to take an opportunity to become a paid member of Mothers Out Front, we are dropping a final link into the chat to join together with thousands of mothers and others across the country to fight together for climate and racial justice. So hopefully you will click on that link and become a paid member of Mothers Out Front today at any level that you want to. It's just showing your support in a way that translates to being able to take action for Mothers Out Front. So we're so looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow. If I know Phyllis, you had wanted to say something. If people want to stay on for a few minutes and chat, feel free. And for everyone else, we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Can't wait to see you tomorrow.